We're following a developing story at 5. The BCA has issued an Amber Alert for a 5-year-old girl from Watkins.
In the small, quiet town of Watkins, Minnesota, the evening of Thursday, August 25, 2016, settled over the Ertl family home with a comfortable familiarity. Inside, the house was filled with the sounds of a happy family life. Matt and Kayla Ertl were enjoying a relaxed evening with their 5-year-old daughter, Elena. Also, I'd love to know, where are you watching from? What city are you in? And what's the time and weather like where you are right now? It's always interesting to hear how this story reaches people all over the world. I'm really happy you're here with me. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new stories. A little girl known to everyone as a bright, bubbly Spitfire with an infectious laugh. They were not alone. Visiting with them was Zachary Anderson, a 26-year-old man Matt knew well. Anderson wasn't a stranger. He was a trusted coworker and a family friend. He and Matt worked together, sharing the daily grind and the easy camaraderie that comes with it. On this particular evening, Anderson had come over to the Ertl's house, and the atmosphere was light and unremarkable. He played with Elena, engaging with the 5-year-old in a way that gave her parents no cause for concern. To them, he was just a friend, spending time with their family. As the evening wore on, the conversation flowed easily. They decided Anderson would spend the night, a casual arrangement made without a second thought. He would sleep on the couch in the living room. For Matt and Kayla, this was a simple act of hospitality for a friend. There were no warning signs, no strange behaviors, and no unsettling moments to hint at the darkness lurking beneath Anderson's friendly exterior. It was, by all accounts, a completely normal night.
We're learning new details about the hours leading up to the kidnapping of Elena Ertl.
Investigators found the 5-year-old's body in a swamp not far from a cabin in Motley on Saturday afternoon. Zach Anderson, who has been charged in Elena's murder, had drinks with her parents the night before. WCCO's Jennifer Merrily takes us through the timeline of events.
Matt Ertl and Zach Anderson arrived together at Riverside Tavern in Forest City on Friday night around 10:30. They came after a softball game. The team, the River Rats, is sponsored by the bar. I'm told Matt and Zach are regulars on Friday nights after softball. On the 19th, they played the jukebox and hung out. Zach had about 2 beers in 2 hours. He paid in cash. The bar closes at 1, and that's when they left. The two had a driver. From there, the group arrived at Gordy's Bar in Watkins around 1:30, just blocks from the Ertl home. Elena's mom, Kayla, was also there. Zach bought the Ertls a beer or two. He drank vodka Red Bulls. The bar only takes cash. They joked around and told stories. Zach talked about how he loves to hunt at his family cabin, the same cabin where police later found him and discovered Elena's body. The group ordered a pizza and took it to go. The bar closed at 2. They stayed until about 2:30. According to the statement of probable cause, that's the same time Kayla Ertl moved Elena to her bedroom. That's the last time she saw her. Matt Ertl got home around 2:30. Anderson arrived between 3:30 and 3:45. He and Matt talked until about 4 in the morning when Matt retired for the evening. By 8:30 a.m., Elena and Anderson were missing.
Around 10 p.m., with Elena tucked safely in her bed and the house beginning to quiet down, Matt and Kayla said their goodnights. They left Zachary Anderson in the living room and retreated to their own bedroom, closing the door behind them. They fell asleep with the peace of mind that comes from being in your own home, surrounded by family, with a trusted friend under the same roof. The house fell silent, holding no outward sign of the unimaginable betrayal that was about to unfold in the dark. The sun began to rise on Friday, August 26th, casting a pale light into the Ertl home. Matt Ertl woke up to an unsettling silence. The usual morning sounds of a 5-year-old stirring, the small footsteps on the floor, were absent. A prickle of unease cut through the early morning calm. He got out of bed and went to check on Elena. He pushed open the door to her room, and his heart stopped. Her bed was empty. The blankets were disturbed, but she wasn't there. A wave of confusion washed over him. Perhaps she had gotten up early and gone downstairs to watch cartoons. He moved through the quiet house, calling her name. Elena? The silence that answered him was heavy and wrong. He walked into the living room, expecting to see her curled up on the couch, maybe near where their guest had been sleeping. But the couch was also empty. Zachary Anderson was gone. The blanket and pillow they had given him were still there, but the man himself had vanished. Now, a sharp, cold dread began to take hold. Matt's mind raced, trying to piece together a scenario that made sense. Had Anderson woken up early and taken Elena to the park? Had they gone for a drive? But the illogic of it was suffocating. Nothing explained why they would leave without a word, so early in the morning. His search became more frantic. As he went from room to room, his calls for his daughter growing more desperate. He glanced out the window, looking for Anderson's vehicle, and the dread solidified into sheer terror. Anderson hadn't driven his own car there, but Matt's white Chevy Silverado pickup truck, which had been parked right outside, was gone. The reality of the situation crashed down on him. Anderson hadn't just left. He had taken Matt's truck. In a final, sickening realization, Matt looked for his cell phone, which he had left in the living room the night before. It was also missing. The pieces clicked into place, forming a horrifying picture. His daughter was gone, his friend was gone, and his truck and phone had been stolen. The benign hospitality of the previous night had curdled into a parent's worst nightmare. Overcome with a panic he had never known, Matt grabbed another phone and dialed 911, his voice trembling as he reported that his 5-year-old daughter had been taken. The 911 call from the Erdl home shattered the morning quiet at the Meeker County Sheriff's Office. A report of a missing 5-year-old, potentially taken by an adult in a stolen vehicle, is one of the highest priority calls a department can receive. Instantly, the case became an all-hands-on-deck emergency. Deputies were dispatched to the residence in Watkins, where they were met by a distraught Matt and Kayla Erdl. The officers worked to calm the terrified parents while systematically gathering the critical details. They confirmed the sequence of events. A trusted friend had stayed the night, and now both he and their daughter were gone, along with the family truck. The facts were stark and terrifying. Sheriff Brian Cruz and his investigators knew they were in a race against time. Every minute that passed decreased the chances of finding Elena unharmed. The information provided by the Erdls was clear and actionable: a specific child, a named suspect, and a detailed description of the stolen vehicle. The case met the stringent criteria for the most powerful tool in a child abduction investigation. The decision was made swiftly. They would issue an Amber Alert. At 11:15 a.m., the alert blasted across Minnesota. Cell phones buzzed with an urgent notification. Electronic highway signs lit up with the grim message. News channels interrupted their programming. Suddenly, the search was no longer confined to Meeker County. It was a statewide manhunt.
Littlefield Liz Collin is off tonight. We are following a developing story at 5. The BCA has issued an Amber Alert for a 5-year-old girl from Watkins. This is Elena Erdl, and she was last seen at her house at 2 in the morning. According to investigators, families say they noticed her missing about 8 this morning. Who was staying overnight was also missing. This is 23 Anderson. They believe he works with the girl's father. According to police, Anderson has no sex offender history, and they aren't sure of a motive. Family says Anderson took their truck, which had a cell phone. The phone last pinged in Todd County around 9 this morning, and it has since been shut off. The BCA says that Anderson now has a shaggy short beard and may be wearing a black t-shirt like this that says Riverside, Minnesota softball. Maybe a white 2002 GMC Sierra, number 107. If you have any information about the whereabouts of Elena Anderson, you are asked to call 911 immediately and do not confront the suspect.
The public was now an army of lookouts, tasked with finding a white 2002 Chevy Silverado pickup truck with Minnesota license plate 107 KMT. The alert painted a clear picture for the public. They were looking for Elena Erdl, a small 5-year-old girl with sandy brown hair. The suspect was Zachary Todd Anderson, a 26-year-old man. His photo, alongside Elena's, was broadcast across the state. With the activation of the Amber Alert, the quiet, personal tragedy of the Erdl family had become a public crisis. The clock was ticking, and every law enforcement officer and citizen in Minnesota now knew that a little girl's life hung in the balance. While the Amber Alert mobilized the eyes and ears of the public, a specialized team of investigators focused on a different kind of trail, a digital one. In the modern age of law enforcement, a suspect on the run almost always leaves an electronic footprint. In this case, Zachary Anderson had inadvertently provided investigators with two. He had taken Matt Erdl's cell phone, and he was carrying his own. The Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, BCA, was brought in to assist local authorities, lending their expertise in technical surveillance. Their first priority was to ping both devices, a process that uses cellular network data to approximate a phone's location by triangulating its signal between cell towers. The first phone to yield a clue was the one belonging to Elena's father. The pings from Matt Ertl's phone led investigators to a specific area near a cell tower just a few miles from the Ertl home. It was a clear sign that Anderson had likely discarded the device shortly after leaving the house, a crude attempt to cover his tracks and prevent being followed. A search team was dispatched to the location, and soon enough, they found the stolen phone abandoned by the roadside. The discovery confirmed Anderson's direction of travel, but also signaled that he was aware he could be tracked, making the search more challenging. With the first phone recovered, the entire focus shifted to Anderson's personal device. The BCA continued to ping his phone, and the data began to paint a disturbing picture. The signal wasn't heading toward a major city or a populated area. Instead, it was moving steadily northward, deep into the rural, wooded expanses of central Minnesota. Each new ping showed him moving further away from Watkins, further into remote territory. The digital trail led them specifically toward Cass County, an area known for its lakes, forests, and sparse population. It was the kind of place where someone could easily disappear. The electronic breadcrumbs were leading law enforcement directly to Anderson, narrowing the massive statewide search to a specific, isolated corner of Minnesota. The manhunt was no longer a blind search. It had a destination. The digital breadcrumbs from Zachary Anderson's cell phone did not lead to a random point on a map. They led investigators to a very specific and familiar location, a secluded property near the small town of Leader in Cass County. It was a rustic family cabin, nestled deep in the woods and owned by Anderson's parents. It was a place he knew intimately, a perfect hideout far from the immediate search zone. By mid-afternoon, a formidable force of law enforcement officers from the Cass County Sheriff's Office, the Meeker County Sheriff's Office, and the BCA converged on the area. They approached the property with tactical precision, their vehicles moving silently down the remote dirt roads. As they neared the cabin, they saw it. Parked partially hidden amongst the trees was the stolen white Chevy Silverado pickup truck. They had found the truck from the Amber Alert. Anderson had to be close. Officers established a secure perimeter around the cabin and the surrounding wooded property. They began a methodical sweep, checking the outbuildings first, their senses on high alert. The main cabin was locked. With caution, they breached the door and began to clear the small structure room by room. At first, it appeared to be empty. The downstairs was clear, the kitchen and living area showing no signs of recent activity. The search moved to the upper level, a small loft area often used for sleeping or storage. As officers ascended the ladder, they found him. Huddled in the dim light of the loft, disheveled and surrounded by the clutter, was Zachary Anderson. He offered no resistance. His desperate flight was over, his chosen sanctuary now, the scene of his capture. He was taken into custody quietly, his demeanor described by officers as subdued and detached. But as the cuffs clicked shut around his wrists, the most urgent question remained unanswered. He was here, alone. Where was Elena? With Zachary Anderson in custody, the atmosphere among the officers was a tense mix of relief and profound anxiety. They had their suspect, but the little girl was still missing. They immediately transported Anderson to the Cass County Sheriff's Office for interrogation, a process that began around 4:30 p.m. The entire focus of the investigation now rested on getting one piece of information from him: Elena's location. Initially, Anderson was evasive and uncooperative. He deflected questions and denied knowing where Elena was, attempting to feign ignorance. Investigators pressed him, knowing that every second that passed was critical. They confronted him with the evidence: the stolen truck, his flight to the cabin, the digital trail that led them directly to him. His weak denials began to crumble under the weight of the undeniable facts. Finally, facing the relentless pressure of the interrogation, Anderson's wall of denial broke. His story shifted. He admitted that Elena was no longer alive. The confession hung in the air, a devastating confirmation of everyone's worst fears. He then provided investigators with a vague description of the location where she could be found. He directed them to a location not far from the cabin, a remote, swampy area, thick with trees and undergrowth. Armed with this horrifying information, a search party was immediately organized. Led by Anderson's grim directions, officers fanned out into the dense woods of Moran Township, a landscape of tangled brush and wetlands. They combed the area, their hope replaced with a somber determination. The search didn't last long.
We have an update now to the Amber Alert we told you about at the top of our newscast, not to give you. The Meeker County Sheriff's Office says that the body of 5-year-old Elena Ertl Anderson has been arrested. The little girl's family said that Anderson was staying with them last night at their home in Watkins, Minnesota. We're missing this morning. We do have a reporter in Meeker County right now. We're continuing to get new information about this investigation.
Following his grim directions, they searched a swampy section of the woods, tucked away from any trail or path. There, they found her. A crude attempt had been made to conceal her location with fallen branches and brush. It was a scene of profound tragedy, the final heartbreaking destination of a search that had captivated and horrified an entire state. It was a scene of profound tragedy, the final heartbreaking destination of a search that had captivated and horrified an entire state. The race against time was over, and it had ended in the most devastating way imaginable. The discovery of Elena marked the tragic end of the search, but it was the beginning of the next critical phase, determining the circumstances of her death. She was carefully recovered from the remote wooded area and transported for forensic examination. This examination would provide the irrefutable evidence needed to understand what had happened in her final hours. The results of the medical examination were heartbreaking. The examiner determined that Elena's death was the result of a deliberate and brutal act, confirming the tragic nature of the crime. The findings indicated a clear intent to cause harm, revealing the severity of the encounter. Furthermore, the examination revealed she had sustained other serious injuries, which pointed to a physical struggle that a child could not have withstood. But the examination revealed additional, crucial details. The medical examiner found unequivocal physical evidence that established the motive for the crime. This discovery answered the main question investigators had been asking. It became clear that the abduction was committed in the course of another very serious felony. Armed with this definitive evidence, prosecutors now had a complete picture of his actions and could pursue the most severe charges possible under the law. With the irrefutable evidence from the autopsy and his own confession, the legal path for Zachary Anderson was short and absolute. He was charged with first-degree murder in connection with other serious felonies, one of the most severe offenses under Minnesota law. The premeditated and brutal nature of his crimes left little room for legal maneuvering. The entire state, which had collectively held its breath during the Amber Alert, now waited for justice. Facing an overwhelming case built by investigators and the undeniable forensic evidence, Anderson and his legal counsel made a pivotal decision. Rather than proceeding to a jury trial, a process that would have forced the Ertl family to relive every horrific detail of Elena's final days in a public courtroom, Anderson chose to plead guilty. On July 17, 2017, nearly a year after the crime, he stood before a judge in Meeker County District Court and formally admitted his guilt. He pleaded guilty to first-degree murder, sparing the family the agony of a trial. The sentencing hearing was held shortly thereafter. It was a somber and emotionally charged proceeding. The courtroom was a space for the Ertl family to finally confront the man who had shattered their world. Elena's parents, Matt and Kayla, delivered powerful and heartbreaking victim impact statements. They spoke of a vibrant, happy little girl who loved to laugh and whose future was stolen by a man they had welcomed into their home as a friend. They described the unending pain and the gaping hole left in their lives, a void that could never be filled. Their words painted a vivid portrait, not of a victim, but of the bright light that had been extinguished. After hearing their statements, the judge delivered the sentence. There was no leniency, no possibility of a future outside of prison walls for Zachary Anderson. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. It was the maximum sentence allowed, a declaration that his actions were so heinous he had forfeited his right to ever walk free again. For his crimes against Elena Ertl, a life sentence meant just that, a life for a life, ensuring the man who stole a little girl's future would spend the rest of his own days behind bars.
Nearly 2 months later, a memorial continues to grow outside their Watkins home. the home to a family sorely missing its youngest member.
She was very loving.
Elena was known for her friendliness and versatile personality, from her love of My Little Ponies to the time she spent hunting with her dad.
She'd come in our room every morning and give us a kiss good morning and, made sure everybody else was okay.
Kayla and Matt Ertl hold memories and many tokens close as they try not to concentrate on the evil that took Elena away.
She's an innocent little girl that did nothing wrong.
Matt had worked with Zach Anderson at a utility line company for 4 years. Anderson lived in Coon Rapids, so when they'd play softball in the summer, he'd sleep over. On that Saturday morning in August, the family woke up to find Anderson and Elena missing, along with Matt's pickup. 3 hours after an Amber Alert was issued, canine officers found Anderson near his family's cabin by Motley. Elena's body was found nearby. Investigators say she'd been before Anderson killed her.
People that you think that you know, and that you trust, and become your friend, and you have in your home, and turn your back on you, and you don't understand it.
The Ertls admit they will struggle trusting new friends moving forward. Still, they are continuously reminded of the good that remains.
The support has been overwhelming.
Yeah.
Gifts and cards from so many touched by Elena's life.
This one, too, was a journal or a day-by-day.
Even strangers from states away pledging to be more patient parents and not taking the time they have with their own kids for granted.
He'll make comments of certain shows or different things he did that made her laugh.
The Ertls are pushing on for their son, Carter, and for their small community that created a public space to heal.
Look outside and there'd be 4 or 5 kids just sitting there reading books, and it's cool to see.
It's where they find comfort in the words they are certain Elena would want them to hear. When it rains, watch for rainbows. When it's dark, watch for stars. Liz Collin, WCCO 4 News.
Long after the courtroom fell silent and the legal chapters closed, the true story of Elena Ertl continues. It is a story not found in case files or headlines, but in the quiet, loving memory of a little girl whose light was unforgettable. Elena was a whirlwind of joy. Those who loved her speak not of a victim, but of a 5-year-old spitfire with an infectious laugh and sandy hair that was always a little messy from playing. She was the boundless energy of a happy childhood, a little girl with a big, bright personality who was just beginning to explore the wonders of the world. She was a cherished daughter and a beloved friend, a small person who left an immeasurably large space in the hearts of those she touched. While a deep shadow was cast on a summer day in 2016, that darkness cannot extinguish the memory of her spirit. To focus on the end is to miss the beauty of the life she lived. Her legacy is not the sorrow of her absence, but the love she inspired. It lives on in her family's hearts, in the shared stories of her funny antics, and in the quiet strength of a community that came together in her name. She is the song that ended too soon, but whose melody lingers for all who were lucky enough to hear it. Elena Ertl is remembered not for how she was lost, but for how she lived, with laughter, with spirit, and with a light that continues to shine in the memories of all who loved her.